Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first edition of Car on the Holler for the 2026 NASCAR season. Just to give you a quick overview of the show, Car on the Holler is a post-race show for the NASCAR weekend as a whole. So it'll usually be at noon on Mondays. Obviously, everything with the Clash this weekend pushed this back pretty far into the week. So this is actually live if you're watching on X, which is live only on X on Thursday night. So usually it'll be at noon on Mondays, and I'll be talking about the Truck Series, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, and the Cup Series, and the big stories we saw from the weekend in those races, including talking about the weekend winners. So this episode will probably be a little bit shorter than most because we only had the Cup Series this weekend with the Clash, and it got delayed because of the snow and everything. And I will get to that, and of course, I'll get to our winner, Ryan Preece, and that was awesome. I do want to go through the top 10 results from the event. Those are our top 10 if you are watching the video. If you're on Spotify, the top 10 was Ryan Preece, William Byron in P2, Ryan Blaney in P3, a phenomenal run by Daniel Suarez. Give it up for Daniel Suarez in P4. Denny Hamlin, I thought he was going to exit the race. It sounded like he was KO'd, is what he said on the radio. Ended up coming back for a top 5. You have Chase Briscoe in 6th, continues his runs. And then Austin Dillon with a sneaky top 10 and that beautiful looking number 3 that he ran. And then in 8th place, you have Chris Buescher. In 9th, you have Ross the Boss Chastain. And then Bowman the Showman, Alex Bowman, in P10 from the Clash. Overall, just a crazy race, and I'll get to all that, but I first want to talk about the snow and everything that happened leading up to the event and why it got delayed. Unprecedented. I've never seen this in NASCAR. I think Bristol, there was a delay. I think they delayed it a day, didn't they? If I'm not mistaken. Then Kurt Busch did the Snow Angels on the front stretch when he was racing for Penske in the Miller Lite Deuce. I think that's the last time I remembered anything even close to that. But there was a blizzard essentially coming through North Carolina, back to back big snowstorms, and brought in a lot of snow. I think they had like a foot of snow almost, and maybe even over a foot of snow in some places. Insane winter storm out there on the East Coast in general, and it hit the site of the Clash, Bowman Gray Stadium, pretty hard. So they ended up moving the race originally to Monday, and they quickly realized that that was not going to be possible. They were going to be able to clean up the racetrack and get the roads at least somewhat clear off near the racetrack. That way fans are able to actually get to the racetrack. And they were actually even debating on running the race without fans. There was a lot of conversation that happened, but they ended up being able to allow fans in, and the race got moved to Wednesday. Todd Gilliland, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., a lot of people from the local community. I think I was hearing like minor league baseball players or minor league hockey players, just like local people from the local community there in Winston-Salem were helping out, clearing off the snow and clearing off the grandstands to prepare for this event. So great job by all of them, able to clear it off. But it still had its effect, as some of you saw during the race, because there was some snow. There's a lot of snow packed in behind the safer barriers and the walls that ended up causing a lot of weepers throughout the day. Wasn't quite as noticeable during the main event, possibly because there was just so many people on the racetrack, and it was able to dry a lot of that soft stuff off pretty quickly because of there being a lane. And then we did see the wet weather tires later in the race. And I don't know. I'm very mixed about that. I'll talk about that in 1 second. But I just got to hand it off to everybody that worked on that racetrack once again to get it cleared off. That was a hell of an effort. And I'm happy they were able to get fans into the stands. Obviously, there wasn't a lot of fans. And I think most people assumed that there probably wouldn't be a lot of fans. I definitely see some people, I don't know, just saying, well, that's why there's no fans in the stands and stuff like that. I think this was a special situation. I was surprised there was as many fans as there were, to be honest, and there wasn't very many. There was not very many at all in the stands, but that's going to come with a race like that and the build up to that. The pure diehard NASCAR fans were out there on Wednesday night, and I hope they had a great experience. It was definitely a show. But let me know your thoughts on how everything was handled with the snow leading up to the event. But then we ended up having kind of some snow, sleet, hail, rain during the race itself. I've never seen that before during a NASCAR race for sure. And they ended up deciding eventually to switch over to the wet weather tires. Ended up being a lot of caution flag laps, and the caution flag laps are counting towards the overall race, and they're trying to see if the rain and sleet and everything can slow down while they're testing out the wet weather tires a little bit at a very slow pace, even kind of creating somewhat of a lane on the racetrack. And honestly, it actually went better than I thought it would. It was still a shit show. The wet weather tires and the way the track was and the cold temperatures, and also the type of track that it is. It's a quarter mile short track. It made it completely insane. That's why it's called the Madhouse, and it was definitely a madhouse for the Clash. Definitely got the full Bowman Gray experience without getting the Bowman Gray experience, if you get what I'm saying, because of all the sleet and the rain and stuff. And that just caused chaos, I'd say, throughout the rest of the race. I think it really just depends on what you like, because some people are for the chaos. Me personally, I was not a fan of it. I don't mind a little bit of chaos here and there, especially at a short track. It comes to be expected, but there was a time where it was just caution after caution after caution after caution. It was completely insane. I think they had 5 or 6 cautions within like a 10 lap span. It was getting a little bit ridiculous and a little bit embarrassing, to say the least. And they were able to eventually figure it out. I think near the end of the race, we had some decent green flag runs near the end of the race, and overall, I think I was okay with the if I had to really say how I felt about the wet weather tires. Overall, I'd say I was okay with them doing the wet weather tires in those conditions. First of all, because all the drivers that I heard from over the radio sounded like some of them were really pumped for it. Some of them were like reclusive, but they were still down for it. So the drivers were down for it. And then the second thing is, it wasn't a points paying event. It was a special event. It was an exhibition race, if you will, it being the Clash. So that's a good time to really test things out. But then something else that just really bothered me about it is, like, this race was on Fox. This could potentially be a lot of people's first viewing of NASCAR for the year, or maybe even in their life, because it is on Fox. And for them to get that experience, is very unfortunate. For the race not able to finish on Fox because of everything that happened with the weather and the wet weather tires and all the wrecks that we had. Ended up getting moved to Fox Sports 2 or the Fox Sports app. I don't even have Fox Sports 2, so I had to watch it on the Fox Sports app. I wasn't a fan of that. I kind of understand it, though. It's an exhibition race, and they went over the time slot, and The Masked Singer is a popular show, I guess. Like I said, me as a NASCAR fan, I hated it, but I understood it. And I think there is some mixed thoughts on that. I think everybody's upset about it, but some people understand it, and some people just don't understand it. The TV money and what TV says is king, usually in a lot of these situations, especially with NASCAR, which is just unfortunate. But the end of that race, I think this is when they really began to figure it out, and I think, did they all end up? No, they didn't switch to slicks. They ended up riding the wet weather tires the remainder of the event. I think I saw hosts of our thinking about it. I think they were trying to switch over to the slicks, and they got caught. So they just stick with the wet weather tires, and those tires exploded when Preece was doing his burnouts. There was so much wear on those tires. They ran them. They ran them to its end, I would say, and he still kept on burning it out. And we'll talk about Preece here in a little bit. But let me know your thoughts on the wet weather tires and how they affected the race and the incidents that they caused, because there was a lot of incidents, a lot of really bad, ugly, just dumb looking wrecks. We saw a lot of that throughout the night. And what were your thoughts on that? Let me know. All right. Let's get to Ryan Preece, because I do really want to talk about Ryan Preece, because that was just awesome. He's a short track guy, modified guy. I'm really unhappy I wasn't able to do left turns right money last week, because he was my tinfoil hat pick of the week. He's the underdog pick that I had for the weekend, and he did phenomenal racing that Coca-Cola number 60. Just a great race. He's a great short track racer, modified racer, and it was just awesome to see him get it done because he's been around for a long time, and he's definitely shown flashes that he is a very talented driver, especially on the short tracks, but he's just never been able to quite finish the job in one of these races, and he's been on difficult times, and it seemed like a couple of times that he wasn't going to race in NASCAR anymore. It seemed like Brad K threw him a bone getting in that number 60 because Brad Keselowski saw the potential talent that Ryan Preece has as a NASCAR driver. And he raced really well last year. I thought he was fantastic in 2025. I think him and Buescher were the heads of the pack. I think some weeks Buescher was the better driver. Some weeks Preece was the better driver. And I think Brad was the third best driver on his own race team last year. I think that highly of Ryan Preece. I think Preece is a very talented guy. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I think he's going to compete for the championship this year or anything like that, but I do expect him to get 1, 2, maybe 3 wins in the year. He's been improving as an overall driver and being more consistent and staying out of trouble. And I've just been impressed with them and that whole entire RFK organization ever since Keselowski got in there. It's really improved as a whole overall organization. Corey LaJoie in the number 6 didn't make the show, replacing Brad Kay, who's injured from his, not skiing accident, but ski trip accident. Brad Keselowski didn't make it to the main event, but honestly impressed me a little bit. I didn't expect him to do as well as he did. I think some people are bagging on him, but I think LaJoie did a little bit better than I expected, coming just short of making the main event for the Clash. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Ryan Preece getting the victory at the Clash. Just a fantastic moment, a fantastic interview. I loved his interview. I loved him being as honest that he was in his post-race interview. I liked that he didn't hold anything back. I think I saw some people giving him some shit about saying fuck a couple of times, about saying the F word a couple of times. But I don't have a problem with it. I personally don't have a problem with it, especially with how passionate and how emotional he was. You can tell how much he loves this sport and how grateful he is for being where he is right now. But let me know your thoughts on Ryan Preece and his victory and his celebration and interview in the comments. All right, before we head on our way for the first edition for Car on the Hauler, like I said, it was going to be a fairly short episode because it was only the Cup Series that happened this weekend. I do want to talk about the future of the Clash and the future for Bowman Gray Stadium, I would say, in NASCAR as well. Let's rip the Band-Aid off and say the very easy thing to say, for me at least. I've seen a couple people saying that Bowman Gray should have like a points race or something like that. Fuck no. I don't want Bowman Gray Stadium to have a points race. I think that would be a horrible idea. I guess I wouldn't mind it too much for the trucks because it is a smaller field. But for those cup cars, that many cup cars on that small quarter-mile track, I don't want. I think they could figure it out. Honestly, I think they could figure it out, but it would just be never-ending traffic. When they would get the restart, the person that's last in the line is going to be getting lapped pretty much immediately. I don't think it's a good move. I don't think they should add Bowman Gray as a points race. I think that'd be a very bad move, but I do understand the want for it because it has so much history. It's full of nostalgia, and also it's iconic. It's an iconic racetrack, one of the most iconic local short tracks. It's the freaking Madhouse. I completely understand why some people would want it to be a points race, but no, I would not be for that at all. And then the other point being, what is the future of the Clash itself? I'm one of those people that's been beating the drum of, I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan, I would say, actually, of the first Clash of Bowman Gray. But at the same time, one thing I really liked is that they improved the facility when they did it. So I was one of those people that was down for the Clash moving from local short track to local short track every 2 or 3 years. Do like 2 or 3 years at Bowman Gray, do 2 or 3 years at South Boston, 2 or 3 years at Five Flags, 2 or 3 years at Kern County. You know what I mean? Just jump and improve those facilities when you come in for the weekend, and it also promotes those facilities worldwide and statewide, because that would promote local short tracks. That would potentially get more people in the stands, and if you're improving the facilities, that will keep the people in the stands. So I was one of those people for that. But at the same time, seeing everything that happened over this past week with the snowstorms and stuff like that, most of the really great local short tracks that I would like for NASCAR to visit are in areas where you're going to get a lot of snow, where it's going to be really cold, where it could potentially be impossible to race that weekend. And then we would see what we saw with Bowman Gray with not a lot of fans. And like I said, I don't blame for not a lot of fans coming through, but that has to hurt the pocket of NASCAR and potentially even the local short track itself. So I guess I'm kind of gotten off that idea at this point, and I'm just going to jump on the bandwagon because that's what most fans want. Let's go back to Daytona. Let's go back to Daytona for the Clash. I'm all for it. The Busch Clash at Daytona under the lights, revive Speed Weeks. I was getting really irritated hearing Mike Joy saying a week full of racing next week, and it's Speed Weeks, and it's like it's Wednesday to Sunday. It's not even a full week. It's not Speed Weeks. It's not even a full week anymore. It's Speed Days. I would really like for them to bring Speed Weeks back full fledged. I would love for them to do what they do with the Indianapolis 500 and have the testing come back. It's the most important, our biggest race of the season, and I'm all for them bringing back Speed Weeks as a whole, and I'm all for them bringing back the Clash to Daytona Beach. That's just what I'm for, and I think most people are jumping on that bandwagon at this point. The people that weren't already on the bandwagon like I was are jumping on the bandwagon, and I would expect for them, because NASCAR's actually been listening to the fans as of late, which is awesome and somewhat of a rarity for them to be listening as much as they are to the fans as they have over the last couple of months. They knew they had to clean face essentially, and they're really listening to the fans and what they want. So I would expect us to go back to Daytona for the Clash in 2027. That's an early prediction for me, and that's what we should do. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think the future of the Clash is? What do you think the future of Bowman Gray Stadium and NASCAR is? I guess I wouldn't mind like an ARCA race or maybe even a Truck Series race at Bowman Gray Stadium. But other than that, I don't want to see the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series have a points race there, and I don't want to see the Cup Series have a points race there. Maybe you can do the All-Star race there if you really want to do it. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, so that will actually do it for the first edition for the 2026 season of Car on the Hauler, my post-race show where I discuss the weekend of racing. Let me know your thoughts about anything we talked about here today in the comments. If you're on Spotify, please follow. I'll be releasing these every week, so please follow on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it, and leave all your comments and follow me and Pace Car Boys on all social medias. And thank you for your time. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. Peace.